Welcome to the weekend edition of Second City Sports Zoom Style.
Zoom Style.
Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow this podcast, Second City Sports, along with the other podcast programming from War Media by going to our website, weareregalradio.com. That's WEAREREGAL radio.com. You can follow this podcast, Second City Sports, along with the other podcast programming by simply typing in your search engine box, War on Anchor. It kicks you over to Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. Wherever you download your podcast, make sure you type in that search engine box, War on Anchor. WARR on Anchor. We're also on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. You can not only listen to us, but watch us do our thing live. And thank you for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And we are unapologetically fun. Lakeena, introduce our guest for this segment.
Oh, well, you guys have probably heard him on ESPN, the Big Ten Network, Illinois and Loyola and UIC Hoops on NBC Sports Chicago, also on WGN Radio. We've had him on the show before. That's my fault. We haven't had him in a while, but we're happy he's with us today. At Jordan Bernfield on Twitter, he is Jordan Bernfield. Jordan, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, guys. How are you?
We're doing
good.
Well. Finally, the weather's warming up, so that's even better, I think, for all of us. We can all agree on that. So, Jordan, let's start with college hoops. We'll start locally with Illinois. Iola DeSumo has to wear that mask now. It looks like with a broken nose, but he's been playing very well, and so was the Illini. Do you think they can make a really deep run in March?
I do. If Io is healthy, I think Illinois certainly has a great chance to make a deep run in March. I think the one thing I would say about this Illini team is that as well as they've played of late, they'd won 7 in a row before being upset by Michigan State. I know they came back and won yesterday against Nebraska. They've been a top 5 to 10 team talent-wise all year, but I don't think that they always play like it. So some of my concern with Illinois comes down to whether they can play to their level consistently in the NCAA tournament. You don't get time to make mistakes when you get into that one and done kind of setting, obviously. And Illinois at times looks like a team that could win the national championship. At other times, they look like a team that's a little bit frenetic. They still have some young guards that they use a lot, guys like Corbello and Miller, who make freshman mistakes. And so I think Illinois certainly has the talent to go deep. I certainly think that they would not shock me if they ended up in the Final Four by any stretch, because they have the talent to do it. But I just think that the one concern I have for Illinois is that they are less consistent than a top 10 team would typically be.
Speaking of the Illini, Jordan, of course, during this time of year going into the big dance, you need guard play, you need inside presses, and the Illini have that with DeSumo and Kofi Cockburn. Who's that third guy that needs to just step up, barring injuries? Because as we all know, mistakes happen, foul trouble especially. Who's that third guy that needs to step up for Illinois? Is it Grandinson? Is it Trent Frazier? Or is it an unsung guy that we don't know about on the roster?
Yeah, Sid, I think it's Trent Frazier. The reason is when you have a senior, senior leadership sometimes is used as a cliche in college basketball. But I think on this particular team, he's able to settle them down from an offensive standpoint. He's a guy that's been through some of those wars, right? Over the course of a 4-year period, you've been in a lot of those situations. He's one of those guys. So I think that he is the player who is critical to their success. I mean, Andre Corbello is a kid who handles the ball a lot. He's young, and so he does make some mistakes. His upside is really high. I'd like to see Adam Miller shoot the ball better than he has. Another guy that I would say is, Georgi Bishanishvili, who I think at times has looked great. At other times he gets overshadowed by Kofi Cockburn and that guy is just a beast down low, obviously. But I think that, a lot of the attention, obviously for good reason, goes to DeSumo and to Cockburn. but I don't think that those two guys are going to win the tournament by themselves for Illinois. They're going to need some of those role players to come through. I think it starts with Frazier, but I think that some of those other guys I mentioned are also going to have to play well because, as you guys know too, any team that wins a championship or gets to the Final Four has to have multiple players contribute. And I think that that's certainly true for Illinois.
Another local team that's making noise, Jordan, is Loyola. I know you get a chance, to watch, to call some of their games on NBC Sports Chicago with Jeff Dickerson. Cameron Krutwig, who, we've been raving about him for like the last few weeks. Do you think Loyola could perhaps maybe make another deep run in the tournament, or if they, perhaps maybe somehow lose in the conference tournament, the Reserve Conference tournament, will they still get in regardless?
Yeah, Lakeena, I think, first of all, Loyola is going to get into the tournament regardless. The reason I think that is because their net rating is 10. They have no bad losses this season. And so when you look at their resume, obviously, if you're Porter Moser's team, you'd like to go as deep in the Valley tournament as you can if you don't win it. But I think any idea that they are not one of the best, 34-ish at-large teams is crazy, right? They're ranked in the top 25 for a reason, and the Missouri Valley Conference might have two teams that come out of that league and go to the NCAA tournament as it is. So I think the Valley is better. It's proving that it's not just a one-bid league this year, which is good for college basketball, and I think Loyola should definitely be in regardless. With regard to how deep they can go, the one thing I would say is it is a little bit matchup dependent, right? Because Loyola is going to get in probably, depending on how things finish out, perhaps if they win the Valley tournament and they go on a 6, 7, 8 game winning streak. In order to do that, maybe you end up with a 6 seed or something like that, or a 5 seed. But as of right now, they're looking like they're probably around an 8, 9 seed. That said, if you win your first round matchup, you might get the 1 seed in the next round, right, in the way that this tournament is. So I think that they are certainly capable of making another deep run. I do think they're one of the best teams in the country, and perhaps I have some bias, but I really think that when you look objectively at the sum of their parts, there's really nothing not to like. They have the best scoring defense in America. Their net rating is 10. When you have as good a defensive team as they have, and you consistently are a 50% or better shooting team offensively, which is something Porter Moser teams have done really over the last 5-6 years since they've been competitive, they have all the ingredients to win in the tournament. The other thing I would say is, yes, it starts with Cameron Krutwig, who I think is one of the best big men in America for sure, but Loyola has the guard depth that is required for a team on its level to make a deep tournament run. Lucas Williamson, their starting 2 guard, was a 6th man on that Final Four team 3 years ago. But Braden Norris is a really good floor general as a point guard. Keith Clemens has been tremendous as a starter or as a guy coming off the bench for this Loyola team. And it just goes down the line. Cooper Kafis, who was a big part of this team 2 years ago, really hasn't gotten a whole lot of time because they're so deep, but is a guy that in a tournament setting might be able to hit 2 or 3 threes for you. You just keep going down the line of guards that they have. Marquise Kennedy, who I hadn't even mentioned yet, kid out of Chicago, I think would start for almost any other Missouri Valley Conference team. The only reason he's not starting is because Loyola has so much guard depth. So I guess what I'm saying is I think they have all the pieces to make a deep run. But again, it does come down to matchup. And if they were to get a Gonzaga or a Baylor in the second round, I think those are the 2 best teams in the country. It's not to say Loyola couldn't beat them in 1 game, but it'd be much harder for me to see a deep tournament run if that's who they'd have to get through in the second round.
College basketball TV voice Jordan Bernfield joins us here on the weekend edition of Second City Sports. I'm Cindy Brown along with Lakeena McGee as we talk college basketball. Jordan, let's stay with Loyola Ramblers for a moment. Porter Moser, the head coach, who I like a lot. I know you've been around him calling games many times. From the outside looking in, he seems like he's a positive, high energy guy. He had a chance to cash in his ticket a couple of years ago with that rumor to St. John's a couple of years ago following that Final Four appearance, but he decided to stay in Chicago. Talk to us about that impact. It looks like it's starting to pay off right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Porter Moser, listen, I started calling Loyola games the year he was hired. And so I've known him for 11 years now. And I think Porter Moser is as genuine, as good a guy as you'll meet. I meet a lot of coaches. I know a lot of coaches. I talk to a lot of coaches. He is as good as they come, and he is – everything about him is real. What I loved about their Final Four run 3 years ago is that when he was then finally exposed on a national level the way that they had not previously been, nothing about him changed. I mean, that's who he is. He is a high-energy, positive guy. He is a guy that when you don't need to do anything to get him going. Like, when we start chatting, whether it's in his office or we're on the phone or whatever, like, that's how he is. He is a super positive guy. He is very much, as a coach, someone who is willing to learn, but is also really devoted in his sort of philosophy to following the guys that helped him get to where he is. Rick Majerus was a huge influence on him, and I guarantee you, if you ever have the chance to talk to Porter, you could set an over-under on 90 seconds before Rick Majerus' name comes up in a conversation about college basketball. So a lot of his basketball philosophy comes from Majerus, which obviously was he was a great coach and a good guy to learn from, and certainly has helped Porter along. And the other thing I would say about Porter, with his respect to his success, and listen, if he stays at Loyola, he's going to go down as the greatest coach in Loyola basketball history. And at Loyola, there is a lot of good history, right? I mean, You're talking about when George Ireland took them to the only national championship win in the state of Illinois for college basketball in 1963. They obviously had a great run in the 80s with Al Frederick Hughes. So it's not as if Loyola doesn't have the college basketball history. They do, even though some other teams in the state have a less prosperous college basketball history. Loyola has it. And so, I think by the end of Porter Moser's career, he will certainly have the most wins and all that stuff if he stays. But I think that he's a Chicago guy, Naperville guy, as I think you guys know, and he has the demeanor, the sort of genuine sense about him, and understands how to run a program in a way that works. And so even when Loyola was building, when they hired him, they were still in the Horizon League. They made a jump to the Valley. It took some years for him to get everything built up there. To Loyola's credit, they let him do it, right? Sometimes coaches are fired in 3 years and they never get the opportunity to realize their vision. Porter was given that opportunity, and now you're seeing what it means. I think the Final Four team from 2018 has allowed a little bit of a recruiting bump where he is now getting the kinds of players that perhaps he might not have gotten before. But to Porter's credit, and this is something he would tell you, he is not veered from bringing in the kinds of players that he wants to bring in, guys that he thinks fit Loyola's culture. He's not willing to bend on that. Right. But perhaps he's able to get some guys that are a little bit more talented that fit that culture. So I think as long as Porter stays, and I hope he does selfishly, I don't think Loyola is going anywhere. I mean, I think this is going to be a team sort of like what Ben Jacobson has done at UNI, that's going to be in the mix every year for a 10 to 15-year period as long as Porter Moser is on the sideline. I think he's the real deal. He's one of my favorite coaches to cover personally because he has always been, just a real guy and a nice guy and a genuine guy from that first day, even when Loyola was not being paid attention to at all in Chicago, and the success hasn't changed him. So, I think that he's great, and I hope that he stays with Loyola for a long time.
Heading down the home stretch with Jordan Bernfield here on Second City Sports Zoom style. Jordan, your good friend and colleague Adam Hogue came out with an article, saying that the Bears probably should maybe move to Arlington, Raceway, because for those who don't know, apparently, I guess, Churchill Downs is selling the land, and some people have said, Adam and others have said, that maybe perhaps the Bears should probably move to playing home games over there, over down in Arlington. Do you think it's a good idea, and how do you feel about that?
To be honest, I do think it's a good idea, and I saw Adam's piece, and I thought he did a great job on it. I am not a huge fan of Soldier Field, if I can just be frank about this. I think it's hard to get to. I think it's impossible to park there. And it's, for fans that are going to the game, who many of which are coming in from the outside, you're parking way away from the stadium. You're walking forever just to try to get in close there. The closest train stop is Roosevelt. And for those of us who have taken it, who live in the city, you're talking about, you guys I'm sure have done this before. It takes you like 45 minutes to walk into Soldier Field.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're walking through a mob scene of people to try to get back to the train. It's a disaster, right? So to me, I shouldn't have to mortgage an entire Sunday just to go to a Bears game. And I think that's what it costs Chicagoans right now if you want to go to a game. To me, Soldier Field, where it is, was like one of those ideas that city planners look at and they go, ooh, football stadium on the lake, great idea, along the Chicago skyline, awesome, 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 right? But then when you think about the logistics of actually having it there, terrible idea.
Yeah.
Really it is. So I think that if they were to move, I think Arlington Park, certainly, I understand it's available and it's got the land and they could do it and all that. It's further from the city than I would suppose the Bears would want to be. But the Bears practice facility is in Lake Forest, which is nowhere near downtown Chicago, and they have all that land out there. And I think that for people who want to go to a game, they're willing to drive and do it, especially if there's parking and logistical accommodations that didn't exist before. The final thing I would say is Soldier Field, because of its current situation, it's owned by the city and there are limitations on what the Bears can and cannot do. Furthermore, it's too small to host a Super Bowl. They can't put a dome on it. There's just a lot of things that are not ideal. Don't get me wrong. When you're walking up to Soldier Field and you're right by the museums there and you're right on the lake, you're like, wow, this is great. It's beautiful here. But it's sort of how I feel about Northerly Island, right? If you ever went to a concert in Northerly Island, you're looking at the stage and then you're looking to your left and you see the skyline, you're looking to your right, and there's the water and you're like, this is great. But then you're like, it took me an hour just to walk into this place.
Right.
So I just feel like maybe it's because I don't feel like I'm old. I still feel like I'm a young person. Maybe I'm just becoming an old person right now, but I just feel like from a convenience and a logistics standpoint, I would rather have it in a place where it's easy to get in and easy to get out. You can still enjoy the experience. It doesn't hurt the Cowboys that they're in Arlington, Texas, right? Or Irving or wherever they are. So I don't think it matters if they're in Chicago city limits.
Go ahead, Sid.
Last question from me, Jordan. I know you're a big-time Chicago Cubs fan, and I know that the White Sox are getting the attention right now, rightfully so. But realistically, what is your feeling going into the season for the Chicago Cubs? I know technically they're the defending division champions. John Lester, they said goodbye to him, but you give Jake Arrieta a little bit more money than you offered Lester. Jock Peterson is in left field now. You say goodbye to Cal Schwarber. Realistically, do you see this Cubs team repeating this division champs, and do you see Chris Bryant being traded at all before the trade deadline?
Realistically, I don't think they're going to be repeating as division champions. Do I think that they could compete? Maybe. I think the way they compete is if the offensive talent that they have all performs at the same time, which they really have not had since the second half of the 2017 season. Secondly, I think that if Jake Arrieta is – there's no way he's going to be the previous Jake Arrieta, right? But if Jake Arrieta is a good pitcher for the Cubs and not sort of the average-ish, below-average pitcher that he was for Philadelphia, perhaps they're in the race. I think that realistically, my opinion is the Cubs wanted to rebuild. They couldn't get on the open market what they thought they would get for a lot of these pieces. So they then decided, we're just going to go for it with what we have. We're going to try to be competitive. And if things break our way, we'll be in the mix. And if they don't, they have options. And one of those would be to trade away a bunch of these pieces. Sid, you asked about Chris Bryant. I think Chris Bryant will be on this team if they're good. And if they're not good, or Chris Bryant is having a great year and they're not good, they'll trade him. I think that the way that they're set up for 21, part of my sense of the talk around the Cubs is people are being too singular in one path in the way of looking at this. I think the Cubs are looking at this as a total open canvas kind of season, right?
Yeah.
If we're good, great. Maybe we win the division. We give ourselves a shot. If we're not good, but we have individual players that are performing well, then maybe we trade them, right? Like the rebuilding effort could start during this season if things break in a way where the Cubs are not competitive, but they have certain guys who on the trade market would net them value to help get this rebuild going. Because the last rebuild was so sort of linear in that they knocked it down to the ground and rebuilt every single year, I think people now sort of think that's the only way to do it. I think the way that the Cubs are doing it now is they're giving themselves a chance to maybe be in it. But if they don't win and it just doesn't work out for them, then they'll blow it up. And then by the end of the season, if they're not winning, but they have guys that they were able to trade and get requisite value for, maybe they're no longer in contention for 22 or 23, but they're building for 24. So I think this is kind of an open season. I could totally see the Cubs winning 85 games if things broke right. I could see them winning 70 games if things go south. You know, I think it's really up in the air. And my guess is, even though Jed Hoyer can't say this publicly because he obviously wants the Cubs to have a pretty good season, he's got plans in place for if the team is not good, re-engaging with some of these teams that have been rumored and saying, what's it going to take? You know, how many prospects can I get for a Chris Bryant or whoever?
You can watch him on ESPN, Big Ten Network, also NBC Sports Chicago doing Loyola and UIC games. But you can also listen to him on WGN Radio later on today and every weekday at Jordan Bernfield on Twitter. Jordan Bernfield, thank you so much for joining us. And I promise it will not be the last time you'll be on our show. I promise.
Do not worry. It's my pleasure, Sid, LaKeena. It's always great to talk to you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.
Nope, absolutely.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Stay safe.
You too. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, Jordan, take care.
All right, Sid. So where do you want to go? We got a few minutes.
I want to go back to college basketball for just a moment. Just to wrap up here, we're on the other side. We'll give you our games to watch for this upcoming weekend for Saturday, Sunday in college basketball. That's on the other side. But to wrap up the Illinois basketball talk, the final Illini, I was impressed by their win on Thursday night against Nebraska. Of course, they did it without Dusumu, but I don't know if Dusumu will be back for Saturday. If you listen to this, which is today on a Saturday, I don't know if he's going to be back for the Wisconsin game. But after that, the makeup game against Michigan will be on Tuesday night. And so I'm assuming if he doesn't play the Wisconsin game, I'm guaranteed he'll be back for that Michigan game then. Yeah. And then they have another game or two, and that'll be it as far as regular season is concerned. I know people before the injury were talking about where Illinois, did they have an outside shot to get a number one seed? I think that's all but gone now. But if they continue to pile up the wins before the conference tournament without suffering the losses despite this injury, maybe they still have an outside shot. But I forgot to ask Jordan this, but we were on a time limit. Michigan, they're clearly the best team in the Big Ten. I know Illinois is right on their heels. Like I said, the game on Tuesday will tell a whole lot. But watching Michigan, their last three games, me personally, LaKeena, like I said, as a fan, I'm cheering for Juwan Howard outside of Illinois, of course. But Juwan Howard, he's from Chicago. But I like Isaiah Livers. He really makes that team go. If they have 2 or 3 other players that would help him out, should he struggle. Michigan is a well-balanced team. I don't have their roster in front of me, but they have their freshman big man. I was watching that game the other day from the weekend against Ohio State, and he was really playing good. So Michigan has a well-balanced team. They actually improved from a year ago. Remember on our radio show, I complained about that, how they shot too many threes. They still do that, but they have a more of a well-balanced team. They're going to be a tough out as well. Ohio State has struggled. As I mentioned, they lost at home to Michigan last Sunday afternoon. Of course, they lost to Michigan State the other night. And so I still say watch out for Ohio State, but they've been struggling these last couple of games. Also, Iowa has picked it up too. But Here's the thing I wanted to get across. Wanted to ask Jordan, but we didn't have time. I think you may see between 6. I think 8 is stretching it, but you may see between 6 and 8 teams qualify for this year's NCAA March Madness.
Yeah, I could
Because the
definitely
Big
see
Ten
that.
is not the best conference in America from start to finish.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you're definitely going to probably get 6 to 8 Big Ten teams. And look, I really like Michigan. I think Franz Wagner. I think that's who you're looking. That's what you're looking for. And he's a big man. And that Hunter Dickinson. I think that's the guy you were talking about.
Yeah,
that
Dickinson.
big,
Yes.
that big guy.
He was very impressive at Ohio State last Sunday.
Could very well end up being Big Ten Player of the Year. I think either one of those Michigan players. This shows you how good they are. And like you said, so I think they're more well balanced. I think Juwan Howard even said that the last year they did depend on the 3 a little bit too much, but now they've got balance both inside and out. So they could probably cut in between Baylor and Gonzaga. So we'll see what they do. And as far as the conference as a whole, I mean, I think I saw somewhere Minnesota had a bad loss yesterday to Northwestern, so that won't help your chances in the big. And to get into the tourney, that's not good. I'm sure Richard Pitino is probably was not amused by that loss, but look, I think it's going to be kind of a free for all. Actually, who gets in? I think Michigan kind of played themselves in with that win last night against Ohio State, or Thursday, I should say, against Ohio State. But you got to think Purdue. I mean, yeah, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio State, Iowa, Wisconsin will probably get in. Rutgers will probably get into. Maybe Purdue, Maryland probably is trying to claw their way in. Maybe Indiana. I think if you're Minnesota, I think you're not helping yourself with with your conference the conference scheduling. It's not good at all. But it's gonna be a free for all to see, like, especially once the Big Ten tourney starts. There's gonna be a lot of teams that are gonna try to play their way in. And plus, with some conferences not, with the Ivy League not playing this year and a couple other conferences too, it's basically opens up, a couple other spots. So where are those spots coming from? We'll talk a little bit more about that on the other side, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the Big Ten, conference like that. Because I've seen some brackets say that they may get 8 or 9 in, but it's just sort of a free fall, I think, for those last like 3 or 4 spots on the Big Ten front.
Yeah, and one last point to wrap up before we take our break. One shout out to Tom Izzo. You mentioned at Michigan State. They won their last 2 games. They defeated Illinois in an upset win on Tuesday, and then they defeated I'm blanking out. I'm glad I have you as a host, Lakeena. They defeated Ohio State on Thursday. Thank you.
Yes.
So they won their last 2 games in upset fashion. As we all know, Tom Izzo, I know this is not one of his talented teams on paper, but around this time every year, he gets his kids together, they rally the troops, and they usually go on a big run. So I want to see how they finish out this regular season. And of course, the Big Ten tournament is in a couple of weeks in Indianapolis. This tournament this year is going to be more important now than ever before because, like you said, Lakeena, between 6 to 8 teams, I think 9 may be stretching it, but at least 8 teams are going to get in. You need to show and prove yourselves. So shouts out to Michigan State for turning their season around. But I wanted to close out this segment going back to Loyola Chicago and Porter Moser. They wrap up their regular season this weekend with a 2-game home set against Southern Illinois. They should be able to win both those games and wrap up the regular season with 21 wins. I know they're ranked 21 in the country as of right now. But I'm glad Jordan Bernfield mentioned a couple other guys on the Ramblers as far as who can help Lucas Williams and Cameron Cutwig, their big guy. They're going to need their supporting cast, especially next week going to the Missouri Valley tournament. You know as well as I do, Lakeena, there's always going to be that surprise team that's going to shock everybody every year. So I'm with Jordan is that Loyola will probably get in. I think Drake will probably get in as well, but both those teams better not slip up because there's always a team like Northern Iowa or Bradley the last couple of years. There's just a team that no one's talking about that can sneak up on people. So I like Loyola's chances going into the conference tournament, assuming that they sweep this home 2-game series against Southern Illinois this weekend, which we all think they should. They'll have 21 wins before the conference tournament, and you use the conference tournament to gear for the March Madness. So I like Loyola's chances. I think they could be even better, but as I said before, as you well know, there's always a team or two that makes a surprise run in that conference tournament. down there in St. Louis.
Well, I mean, look, Missouri Valley, all weird things have always happened, especially in recent years in the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. There's always that one team that kind of sneaks in there. I mean, like Illinois State, I think was that, did it a few years ago, got in the tournament, came out of nowhere. Missouri State, I think, that they're 11-5 in their conference. They have a senior laden team. They could probably throw a monkey wrench into that. Indiana State, another team that has done very well this year, they could probably throw a monkey wrench into that. So it's always weird things that could happen. Southern Illinois, unfortunately, I think lost one of their top guys like early on. I think they were undefeated for a while, but I think they lost one of their top scorers who the rest of the season to injury. So that kind of derailed their season. But Brian Horter, who played there, has done a great job. Regardless, I'm sure he'll get that program together in about if not next season, definitely in the next couple of years. But look, I think if you're Loyola and Drake, I think your best bet is to get both teams get into the final, the tournament final. You'll probably both get in. Depending on what happens in the bigger conference tournaments, and in that sense. But you don't want to leave it up to the committee. So I would say just get both teams just get to the final and just. You'll probably both get in regardless.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Lakeena, let's take this 20-second timeout on the weekend edition of Second City Sports. On the flip side, we'll get into the top games for college basketball for this weekend outside of our local area. We'll talk about Zach LaVine. He's finally an all-star. He has redemption on his resume. And also we'll give you our games to watch this weekend in the NBA. And we'll expand on our conversation about the Chicago Bears possibly playing in Arlington Heights, ... We'll give you our thoughts on the flip side. You're listening to the weekend edition of Second City Sports. Welcome back to the second half of the weekend edition of Second City Sports Zoom Style.
Zoom Style.
Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG. You
can follow War Media on the Twitter at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media on the Twitter. And also you can go to our website at weareregalradio.com. That's WEAREREGAL radio.com for more information. You can follow this podcast, Second City Sports, along with the other podcast programming from War Media by simply going to War or Anchor, typing that in your search engine boxes. It takes you over to iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, and that iHeartRadio app. We're available on all podcast downloads. So when we go to your favorite download app, podcast app, just type in that search engine box, War or Anchor, okay? That's WARR on Anchor. We're also on YouTube at War Media, once again, at WARR Media on YouTube. You can not only listen to us, but watch us do our thing live. And we thank you for your support. Mwah!
Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe.
And we are unapologetically fun. So before we get into some NBA, Lakeena, let's tell the people about a couple of college basketball games to keep your eye on this weekend for Saturday and Sunday. If you listen to us, which is today on Saturday, it'll be today.
Lots of great matchups, coming up today. So you got Texas and Texas Tech in the Big 12. Texas hoping to break that losing streak they've had. They've had their struggles lately. Texas Tech had a loss, so definitely both teams trying to get back on track. Tennessee and Auburn in the SEC, of course, that's always, a great when those two teams play. Illinois and Wisconsin, we talked about it earlier. That should be a fun when they're at the Kohl Center. LSU and Arkansas. Arkansas has been playing well lately. Like Eric Musselman has got his guys playing well. They could be a team to watch out for coming up in the tournament. Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, the Bedlam, no matter what the sport, it's always fun when those two teams, get together and play. Florida State and North Carolina should be a good one. Boise State and San Diego State. That's sort of a second of a two-gamer. This is for control of the Mountain West Conference, number one seed there. Boise State kind of needs their win to sort of keep in the bubble, but San Diego State, doing what they've been doing. Had an off year last year because they were rebuilding, but those guys, are back at it, so it's fun to see. But of course, we talked about Loyola and Southern Illinois. What's another one here? And Kansas and Baylor. That should be a fun one. That's the ESPN primetime game coming up tonight at 7:00. Kansas has been playing very well. They've gotten better. Baylor. I know they struggled against Iowa State, but they were off for like almost 3 weeks. So come on, give them a break, guys. But that should be a fun, that should be a fun one there over in Lawrence. That's always a fun one. And let's hope that they can. If you're a Baylor fan, you're hoping that they can, stay undefeated. Now we'll go into the Sunday matchup. So what games are you looking forward to, Sid?
The big one I'm looking forward to on Sunday will take place in Columbus, Ohio. That's a 3:00 game on CBS. That's number 9 Iowa Hawkeyes. Shout out to Maya Kai and Alyssa Bergamini, among others, the alumni for Iowa. They'll travel to Columbus, as I mentioned, to face number 4 Ohio State. Big game for both teams. Iowa has turned it around recently. They're 17-7. While Ohio State has dropped their last couple of games, they're now 18-6. Of course, Ohio State were upset by Michigan State on Thursday. I think it's a bigger game for Ohio State. As I mentioned in the last episode, watch out for Ohio State come tournament time. But they need to right the ship, and because the regular season is almost at an end, and you need to go into the conference tournament on a high note.
Oh, that should be a fun one down over in Columbus. Another Mountain West Conference game here. You got Nevada and Utah State. Utah State is one of those teams that are on a bubble. They're 11-4. They're kind of battling out with San Diego State and Boise State. So they need to keep winning to sort of keep themselves in the discussion for an at-large bid. So that should be a fun one there. Pittsburgh and NC State, that should be a good one. That's on the ACC network. So, as teams, we're only a few weeks away from Selection Sunday. So these teams are sort of, jockeying for position to get on the bubble, get on the other side of the bubble, to keep from going outside the bubble. So you're going to be hearing the words bubble and bracketology a lot in the next few weeks.
Yes.
So be prepared.
Did you mention this game before we move on, Lakeena, Florida State and North Carolina?
Oh, I forgot about that game. Yeah,
that's a 3:00 game. If you listen to this podcast on a Saturday, which will be later today, 3 p.m. on ESPN. North Carolina quietly is starting to turn it around. They're 14-8, 8-5 in the ACC. Of course, Florida State's been one of the top teams in the country all year. They're ranked number 11 right now. I'm really interested to see how North Carolina comes out, even though there'll be no fans there, obviously. I'm interested to see how they come out to start the game, because Florida State's going to bring it.
Florida State could have an outside shot again that one seed. Also, North Carolina trying to bounce back for a bad loss. And Roy Williams said it, bad loss a couple of days ago against Steve Wojciechowski and his Marquette Golden Eagles. So that was a makeup game for those of you who are wondering why they were playing in the middle of, late February. But that was a game that was, postponed, but, they were able to open up, and, unfortunately Marquette, got the best of North Carolina. So we'll see how their move will be, when they play Florida State later today. It should be a fun one, as it usually is between these two teams. Also, Florida and Kentucky, that should be another one too in the SEC. That's a 3:00 game on CBS. So that should be a fun one there in the SEC. Both teams sort of, trying to improve their, not only their SEC seeds, but also their tourney seeding. So that should be a fun one there down in Lexington.
Yep, so those are the games that you should look out for in the college basketball world. Let's jump over to the NBA, Lakeena. Let's start with our local hero, the Chicago Bulls. Now all-star for the first time, Mr. Zach LaVine. The announcements of the reserves were announced this past Tuesday. And Lakeena, you have the list. You'll read off the rest of the list in just a moment. Yep. But congratulations to Zach LaVine. I predicted on the last show that he'll be named as an all-star. I think two reasons why he was named an all-star. One, because the Bulls are a respectable franchise now, and they are in the 8th spot as we speak. Number two, he's willing to take on the role of being the alpha dog, is being the face of the franchise, but not only on the court but off the court as well. He likes to take on the responsibility, the way he carries himself. He's built for this. He's had big games, as we mentioned this year, second or third in the league with the most 30-plus point scoring performances. He's been hitting big shots all year long, but defensively, he's not the world's greatest defender, but he challenges himself head on to guard the other team's best player. You like to see that out of your best player.
And I'm so happy for him. He's worked his butt off
Yeah.
to get to this point. And if you guys saw the video that the Bulls PR people made with him, being surprised by his family and friends via Zoom of Avi, but you're happy for him, and I'm hoping that, look, we don't know what our current choice and Mark obviously what they're gonna do, but I'm thinking that I think they know that you got to keep this guy. And I know some people say, let's trade him for draft picks and stuff like that. I mean, okay, guys, do you want to be like Orlando? Do you want to be like Sacramento and teams like that? You don't want to be kind of like stuck in the middle. Look, you got a good player. You can build around him. And, look, we know the Bulls need a point guard. We know they need a good big man, and we know that. But you've got a guy that can be sort of like the foundation builder for you to build your team. It's just sort of be, look, you're respectable again. Now you want to be a contender. So let's take those baby steps and see if we can, look, I know they're a 7 seed right now. They've won 3 in a row, the Bulls have, but look, let's keep the baby steps and let's just keep improving.
And also, too, this is also redemption, as I mentioned before we took our break, for Zach LaVine, because last year he desperately wanted to be named an All-Star because the game was here in Chicago. Of course, we all know what happened on the First Take show last year from Navy Pier during All-Star weekend when he was being interviewed by the crew. Of course, those fans behind him chanted guard packs twice before Stephen A. Smith killed that. But the voices of the fans were heard, and that was the talk around All-Star weekend last year. Lakeena, as you know, we did our radio show last year from downtown Chicago last year, where it was festive. Of course, it was the day before that that took place on First Take. But the Bulls, they were in a bad place for a long time, and of course, hosting All-Star weekend didn't hide that, especially after what happened, as I mentioned, on First Take last year, where he was on that show. It wasn't his fault, but that incident just happened while he was being interviewed. He carried on like the true soldier that he is, being professional and everything, because he's representing the Bulls franchise, the NBA, and the city of Chicago. So, of course, he didn't know that was coming. But also, I was listening to I'm sure you heard this too. I was listening to an interview with Casey Johnson, a friend of the show, by the way, with NBC Sports Chicago Now. He interviewed Zach LaVine, and he asked Zach, the day of today is which was Tuesday, the day that you announced that you were being selected All-Stars. That was the day that you injured your ACL 4 years ago. And I heard his response is like, I truly didn't know that it was 4 years ago on the day. I was like, wow. He said, Casey said, yeah, today is the day that you injured torn your ACL 4 years ago. And fast forward now, you're being named an All-Star. He's like, wow, I did not know that. But he's come a long way. We kind of forget about that injury. Of course, it was right before he was traded to the Bulls that some of you still a member of the Timberwolves. But it's truly redemption in a lot of ways for Zach. So congratulations to him once again.
He totally has earned it, and he definitely deserves it. And
Yes.
Hopefully, look, like I said, the Bulls are a 7 seed right now. Hopefully, they can keep it going. Look, they got a pretty tough schedule in the second half of the season. We'll talk more about that, and later on. But their schedule's pretty tough. They got a lot of back-to-backs. They're gonna be playing Brooklyn multiple times. They're gonna be playing Philly multiple times too, and also Milwaukee. I think they finished out the season. They played them like 3 or 4 times. So it's gonna be tough. But look, I think if you can finish up at the very least near 500, I think you could, considering like where you were last year and the last few years, I think you got to be you'll feel pretty good, if you're a Bulls fan.
Yeah, you have to be feeling good if you're a Bulls fan. Am I going to tell you to go protest to have the United Center doors open? No, but you have to be encouraged about what the team is doing right now. We'll get to shout out, as it's on my mind right now. Shout out to the United Center. They're opening up for the arena for mass vaccinations. They'll start March 1st, which is next week. And so that's going to be great for people that want to get vaccinated. They can get back to their lives and be healthy, of course. So shout out to the folks at the United Center. Jerry Rhinestone with Rocky Works, who co-owns that arena, even though it's owned by the state of Illinois. But a shout out to those guys, opening up for more people in the Chicago area to get vaccinated. So shout out to United Center. But back to the team, you have to be encouraged of what's going on right now. As we said before the season kicked off, Lakeena, this was a season of player development and what was going to be the agenda set for this new regime, not only in the front office but in the head coaching staff led by Billy Donovan. what was going to be the tone set for hopefully years to come as the Bulls try to get back to respectability. They're at their respectability now, but if you heard Billy Donovan the other day after that game against Minnesota, which they should have blown them out, by the way, but it's neither here or there. He said, I expect more out of this team. Now, the question is, will the players respond to Billy Donovan's challenge? So far, they have as a group. Individually, it's still some players here and there that need to step their game up. But overall, you're in a better place than you were a year ago.
Oh, I totally agree. And also, too, you gotta look. This team's fun to watch now. It's not a chore to watch a Bulls game now. I know they should have blown Minnesota out, but look, they're in the Western Conference. They probably, if they had like their druthers in a row, they'd probably be like near the top 10. So I'm not freaking out because they didn't blow out Minnesota. They're still the Bulls still trying to find their wheels, but. I think congrats to Zach LaVine, and we'll get to, more about that in a little bit. But some of the other All-Stars in the East, Jaylen Brown making his first appearance. James Harden, who I know he just got there, but he earned his way in. We'll talk about him in a second. This is
not a surprise.
Ninth All-Star appearance. Also, to Julius Randle, who, everyone was lobbying for him to get in. He got his first appearance, for the Knicks. Ben Simmons is his third appearance, even though he's been, in and out with injuries. Jason Tatum.
I got question marks on that, but.
Yeah. Jason Tatum, also Nikola Vucevic, who is probably one of the reasons why the Magic, is sort of staying afloat. He's one of the reasons why. So I have no problem with him being an All-Star. But I know you say you have questions about Simmons being there.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. On the West Side, Anthony Davis, 8th appearance. We know he won't play. Devin Booker, who a lot of people say probably should have gotten in. He'll make his first appearance in the All-Star game. Paul George, his 7th appearance. Rudy Gobert, 2nd appearance for him. Damian Lillard, his 6th. 2nd appearance for Donovan Mitchell. CP3 in his 11th. And also, Zion makes his first ever appearance in the All-Star game. Any issues with those reserves in the West?
Not really. I know some people want to say Zion, but remember, it's an all-star game. So I know Zion. I know the NBA has been forcing it down your throat over this last year that he's your savior, and I told people to hold up on that. But congratulations to Zion. I have no problem with it. He's actually having a nice year. The team has, and of course, they had a bad loss against Milwaukee on Thursday. But
bad.
but regardless of that, Zion's actually having a nice year. So congrats to him. He's going to have many more All-Star appearances, I'm sure. You said Damian Lillard, only his 6th All-Star appearance. You would think he'll have at least.
I know.
At least.
Well, yeah, I think remember, I think he was injured his rookie year, or he had his struggles his rookie year. That's probably why he didn't make it those first couple of years. He was a rookie, and recovering, but now, he's got his game at a whole nother level. So this is number 6 for him.
Congrats to him, Bud.
Which I know is shocking. Yeah, I know it's shocking. Yeah.
Like I said, he should have at least 1 or 2 more. But I have no issues really with the All-Star reserves. Usually the coaches get it right 95% of the time. But excuse me. Did you see LeBron James's tweet the other day? He said the most 2 disrespected players in the league were Damian Lillard and Devin Booker. And I get where he's coming from, but if you really know basketball, Damian Lillard is respected. What you get out of him. People know who he is by now.
Right.
And Devin Booker, I can see that, but I'm surprised. I thought this would be his 2nd All-Star game, but neither here or there.
Well, I think because he plays in Phoenix. Phoenix, unfortunately, for the last few years has been kind of an afterthought. So that's probably why folks are kind of like still disrespecting him after even after all this. But it is, right. It is what it is. If
LeBron James was coming from that standpoint, fine, I'll give you that. But if you watch basketball, you know who Devin Booker is, even though the team's been terrible outside of the season, of course. But if you watch Devin Booker for any whole amount of time, you know who he is. He dropped a 70-piece on Boston a few years ago, and he's been one of Phoenix's up and rising stars. So if he wasn't coming from the standpoint where he's playing in Phoenix, I don't know what LeBron James is talking about. I know he has a big voice in the league. I know a lot of people listen to him and follow him, but it sounds like to me he was just being petty. That's just me.
Well, kill him with kindness, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? Sometimes, look, you never know. You never know what goes on LeBron's mind sometimes. But like I said, it is what it is. But I have to talk about James Harden for a second. The Nets have won 8 in a row. Mm-hmm. I mean, What more can you say about Harden? I think Harden has finally woken up now. I guess now that he's out of Houston, he's the only player in NBA history to produce 1,000 points, score and assist now in his first 20 games with a team. So that's just amazing that he's able to do that and still playing at a high level too. Now that he's out of Houston, let's just be honest here. But I think he's one of the especially with Durant, being out. I think he's one of the reasons why the Nets have won 8 in a row.
Yeah, I've been watching a couple of the Nets games via my computer from this past week, and it's amazing to see how well they've been playing, especially without Kevin Durant. He's missed 6 straight games. We'll get to the weekend games in just a moment for the NBA, but Brooklyn's been playing very well. I know they're supporting cast. Kyrie, he's always going to be Kyrie. Joe Harris is starting to show up again. I was watching that game on Thursday. He had a couple of big 3-point baskets against the Orlando Magic as they blew him out of the arena. And I still say this, a Blake Griffin type or an Andre Drummond type will help their teams defensively. I know DeAndre Jordan's been playing well as of late, but he's not enough. You need a defensive stopper.
Also, too, Boogie's out there too. Just saying. Another team another team that has done well is I'm sure our girl Alana Techire would love this. The Miami Heat. That they've won 4 in a row too. So I think Jimmy is, now that he's back from injury, sort of getting his, sort of routine going on. I think he's been playing very well. Mm-hmm. So, they beat the Raptors, a couple of nights ago, which was a bummer for me. But they beat the Lakers, they beat the Thunder. But, this team has looked good. And you got to, I don't know if they'll be at that finals level yet. But I think, I think that they're there where they are right now. Bama Bio's been playing very well, helping out Jimmy. Duncan Robinson's actually been more consistent now, which that's been the problem. Also, they're getting bench contributions too.
Yeah, so let's see if Miami can turn it around. There's going to be a logjam between, I believe, spots 5th through 10th in the Eastern Conference. And of course, the play-in tournament format is back again for this season for the NBA. That's the 7th and 10th spots. And that's why it's important for the Bulls. If you do not want to participate in it, you better be in one of those top 6 spots. Now, going out west, Lakeena, before we give you our games to watch this weekend, the Los Angeles Lakers are now on the current 4-game losing streak, I should say. They got embarrassed at Utah on Wednesday night in front of a national television audience once again. I know I said on our last episode, do not panic. I'm not going to say it's time to panic, but you should be a little bit more concerned. Don't jump off the bridge, but you should be a little bit more concerned. Like you said, DeMarcus Cousins is out there. Blake Griffin is out there. I'm not saying you don't have to do it today, but until Anthony Davis gets back, you're going to have problems. Now, this team's too good. They're not going to go on a 10 or 11-game losing streak. I just don't see that happening, but you got to be just a tiny little bit more concerned.
This is me. We're going to be watching those YouTube videos. It's a little bit, tiny bit concerned. I mean, look, I know they got embarrassed by Utah. Okay, yay. Look, Davis isn't there. That's we kind of figured that was going to happen. LeBron needs help. I'm sure he's going to want to sit out the second half of the season. You're going to have to get a Boogie Cousins, get an Andre Drummond or Blake or somebody like that to kind of help out and hold down the fort. But also, too, Kuzma needs to be more consistent. KCP needs to be more consistent. And I think that's another problem. I mean, there's not that consistency. There's not that, that bench, is not helping them. So I think, look, LeBron, I'm sure LeBron wants to sit, the rest of the season. So I think that, look, he needs help, folks. I mean, look, Marc Gasol, you might need to go, my friend. And I know you wanted to try to maybe win another title, but I think you need to go. Montrezl Harrell, I think you need to be more consistent too. Wesley Matthews, be more consistent. I mean, look, a lot of these guys need to kind of be more consistent. And look, like you said, Sid, I mean, look, this team's capable of getting a 10 or 11 game, winning streak. I mean, they could be right up there at the top of the West, right back up there. So I'm not worried about that. But I think if you're LeBron, if you're the rest of the brass, the Lakers, I think you're kind of looking at this and say, okay, what do we need to do here? Because we need somebody to kind of hold down the fort until AD is able to come back.
Yep. You're listening to the weekend edition of Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown as we talk about the National Basketball Association. Now, Lakeena, let's get to some key games for Saturday and Sunday. If you're listening to us on Saturday, it will be today. Of course, let's take a look at the action that you'll be looking at tonight. Let's start with the primetime game on ABC. It will be the Dallas Mavericks traveling to New York City to take on the Brooklyn Nets from Barclays Center. That's at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Of course, Dallas is looking to turn their season around. Luka Doncic had a buzzer beater against the Boston Celtics at home on Tuesday. Of course, Brooklyn, as we mentioned, they have won 8 in a row. And New York City, including Barclays Center and MSG, which we'll get to in just a moment, they are allowing 2,000 fans into the arena.
Yeah, that'll probably make a little bit more of a difference there. And I think Luka versus Harden, that should be a fun one. They've had their battles when Harden was playing with Houston. I'm looking forward to see how this game progresses, because I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And we'll see. I mean, we'll see if Brooklyn keep up their winning streak. Yeah,
speaking of New York City, Madison Square Garden is starting to allow fans into the arena. It will be 2,000 again at 10% capacity. The New York Knicks, they're in a playoff hunt. They'll battle the Indiana Pacers at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
That should be another fun one too, and also with the fans. I mean, will you see a little bit of a difference with the fans? We'll see, but should be an interesting one over there. Going into the Sunday matchup, Sid, the Bulls got a tough one against Toronto. At 6 o'clock. That should be a good one there. Also the afternoon game, for tomorrow. 2:30 on ABC, Clippers and Bucks. That should be a lot of fun.
Yes.
And a lot of people are saying this could be the finals preview. We'll see. I mean, I know the Clippers.
I got questions on that, but
I mean, let's not go too far ahead in that sense. But this should be a fun one. I mean, we'll see how Giannis faces Kawhi. That should be an interesting one there. Look, I'm sure the Clippers are going to want to bounce back from just a terrible loss at Memphis, but we'll see how we'll see how they play. If they can split that split that sort of like 2-gamer with the Grizzlies, but I think this should be a fun one though, still nonetheless.
Yeah, and also too, don't forget about Paul George. He should be able to show up in this game against Milwaukee. Like you mentioned, it'll be a Sunday afternoon primetime game. Another game to look out for tomorrow, which will be Sunday. At 6 o'clock, it will be the struggling Boston Celtics against the bad Washington Wizards. The reason why I bring this game up, Lakeena, there's been talk, especially nationally, that is Brad Stevens. Is he the head coach to go forward for the next couple of years? Some people say he should be fired. I know Boston's been struggling over the last couple of weeks. I know Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both deserve to be All-Stars. They were named to the team. Is this overreaction, or is there something there? Because let's be honest, after a while, players get tired of the same voice. But do you think there's something there?
I mean, they had a bad loss against the Hawks a couple of days ago, so I'm kind of, and they got beaten pretty handily by 25 points. So I'm kind of 15 points, I should say. So I'm kind of surprised by that. I mean, I guess after the Mavs loss, I guess they were doing, I don't know if it was Tatum or Brown, I don't know, one of them was doing the post game, and I guess somebody heard Brad Stevens yelling and screaming, which I didn't think he yelled and screamed. So that just shows you how I've never heard him yell and scream before. So I don't know. So that kind of threw me off guard. But I think Marcus Smart hasn't been there. He's been, he injured an ankle. He hasn't been in the last couple of weeks. That could be why, that could be why they're struggling. He's kind of the facilitator on the floor. So that could be why they've been struggling. I'm not there yet. Stevens should be out. I'm not. I mean, I think that, it's the discipline and sort of the mindset and the confidence. I think that's what they need right now. And hopefully, Smart can come back soon and sort of give them that, but we'll see. But, Washington's been playing pretty well lately. So this will be a very interesting game coming up on Sunday.
Okay, also, the primetime game for Sunday night will be taking place in Los Angeles at 7 o'clock p.m. on ESPN's the Golden State Warriors traveling to Staples Center to battle the Lakers. Hopefully the Lakers can get off the schneid. And I know the Lakers have a home game there, which was played Friday against the Portland Trail Blazers. But as of this recording, they're currently on their 4-game losing streak. So hopefully, if you're a Lakers fan, you hope you see your team get back on track against a sub-500 team.
Yeah, this is definitely a perfect time to kind of I know Golden State is Steph is Steph, but hopefully this will be one of those games where you kind of right the ship if you're a Lakers fan. On Monday, Utah versus New Orleans. That should be a good one on NBA TV. New Orleans hoping to bounce back for that terrible loss to the Bucks, where they should have won that game. I know. Look, Brandon Ingram needs to start shooting from the 3. He needs to start to improve his shooting because that's been sort of the thing, especially down the stretch. He was great against Boston, but unfortunately he was bad against Milwaukee. So that team definitely need to get together there, and we'll see. Look, like I've been telling people, look, Utah, yes, they deserve all the love now, but let's see if they do it in the playoffs. Give them all the love. Give them all the love now. They've earned it, but let's see if they can do this in the playoffs. That's how I feel about the Jazz right now.
Yep. Also, another game to look out for this Monday at 7:30 p.m. will be the Brooklyn Nets traveling to San Antonio to face the Spurs. I know the Spurs had their COVID issues recently, but as we said before, they're quietly getting back together. They're 5 games over 500 and right in the thick of that Western Conference playoff race, led by Dejounte Murray and DeMar DeRozan, who some say should have been on the All-Star team.
Yeah, he probably should have been, but then again, you look at the rosters. Who you were taking out though. That just shows a lot of depth there is in the West. But look, this should be a lot of fun. I think Brooklyn should not. I'm sure Brooklyn will not take the Spurs likely. Steve Nash knows this. So I think this will be a fun one, and I wish this game was on nationally because I think this will be a good one. Also, another one.
And also,
I think we're gonna have the same thing. Go ahead. I think you were right. We're gonna have the same game.
Of course, Denver Nuggets traveling to Chicago to face the Bulls at the UC at 8 o'clock. As Jason Goff of NBC Sports Chicago would say, it's the NBA 80s on coke. So there should be a lot of high scoring there, no pun intended. And to wrap up the night for Monday at 9:30 p.m. on NBA TV Chicago time, it's the Charlotte Hornets traveling to Portland to take on the Trail Blazers. LaMelo Ball, the outstanding rookie point guard, will face Dame Dollar, a.k.a. Damian Lillard. That should be a whole lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, I think Dame's gonna teach him a thing or two. I think I'm just predicting here. I'm not projecting here, but I think that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
All right, Sid. Enjoy the games this weekend, guys. A lot of great games in the NBA. Let's go to the gridiron, the pro gridiron. The Bears made some news. Yes, they made some news this week. I think it's gonna be like a show thing for us here now, Sid, for the next few months. The QB rumor of the day, Russell Wilson, of course, the all-pro QB.
That's true. We had him so far. We have Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jimmy Garoppolo, we mentioned last week. Now Russell Wilson.
The QB fact of the day. Apparently, there was an article that came out that we know that Russell Wilson is not very happy in Seattle because of some of the moves that have been made or have not been made. Now apparently there's an article that came out a couple of days ago, and apparently he's not asking for a trade yet, but according to Adam Schefter, his agent Mark Rogers said that has told Seattle that he wants to play in Seattle, but if there was a trade considered, the only teams he would go to are the Cowboys, the Saints, the Raiders, and brace yourselves, the Bears. One of these teams is unlike the other. And I'm seeing like Tariq Cohen and Cordell Patterson making some sort of recruiting pitches. Cordell, I guess, posted a picture with him and Russell, I guess, at a function a couple of years back, and Tariq was recruiting him. Okay, let's clear this up right now. The Bears are not getting Russell Wilson. No.
One more game for the people in the back of the bus.
No, it is not happening. No. Stop. It's absurd. No, you have nothing for John Schneider, and I doubt he's going to want to trade him anyway. Sid, you go ahead, because I know you got more. You're more riled up about this than I am. Go ahead.
I've been thinking about this for the last 24, 48 hours. What's been the Bears' problem? They have many problems, but what's been the Bears' problem throughout the history of their franchise? A franchise quarterback. Let's just say hypothetically, you got Russell Wilson, fine. let's roll with it. But the way the offensive line has played this season, I know they regrouped in the month of December. Excuse me. Can you guarantee me that the offensive line will play like that next season? What do you think Russell Wilson's complaining about now in offensive line? Now, if you're the Bears, it looks like you're going to cut one offensive lineman, probably two, with Bobby Massey and Charles Leno Jr. And let's just assume that they're all healthy, whoever's left on their roster, assuming that Ryan Pace keeps that first-round pick for this year and drafts a tackle. As our buddy Jason Leisure for the Chicago Sun-Times friend of the show said to us last month, you can't guarantee me that the offensive line is going to play well from year to year. You just don't know. Now, let's assume that the Bears got Russell Wilson, which we just so happened to win a Super Bowl. As a fan, I would be happy, but because of his age, I'm talking about Wilson, he's age 32, 33 years old. You're really going to have him for 2 or 3 years max at that big size contract. And we're going to be sitting here doing, Lakeena, talking about getting another franchise quarterback. That's why I'm not in favor of this deal. In order to get good and stay long term, you have to draft a franchise quarterback, and it starts right now.
He'll be 33 in late November, right before December. So, I mean, look, we know who Russell Wilson is. He's got, passing records, franchise records in, Seattle. We get all that. But like you said, Sid, like I just said, he's 32. He'll be 33, by the time the next season's over with. You're going to be only going to have him for what, like a couple of years, like you said. And who's to say that the O-line is going to be, worse, it was okay near the end, but it was still bad. Why do you think he's, like you said, why do you think he's complaining, about wanting to get out of Seattle? Because they haven't invested in the O-line. You really think that, that the Bears going to invest in the O-line? They don't have him right now. And plus, you know how much you're going to have to give up to get him?
Exactly.
You're not going to give up Roquan Smith. No, I'll just finish. Roquan Smith, Kyle Fuller maybe. You may have to throw in maybe an offensive guy, and maybe a couple of, some draft picks. That's probably what you're going to get in order to convince, Mr. Schneider to even give you a call. So let's not think that ahead because it's not happening. Go ahead, Sid. I'm sorry.
And also, too, let's just assume that the Bears got a Russell Wilson. Right now, you're up against the cap. I'm sure you had to cut a couple more players than you weren't expected to cut. Can you guarantee me that Allen Robinson will be back? On paper, it looks good, but can you guarantee me that Allen Robinson will be back?
I'm not saying unless you're franchise tagger, which I'm sure he's not going to be very happy with that.
So, yeah, unless they get a long-term deal done ASAP.
Which they probably won't. So, I mean, look, I know some people, there are other rumors that say, well, maybe Sierra wants to come to Chicago. But I don't understand why they would want to come here. I mean, look, the cover's bare here in Chicago. So well, not bare per se, but there's not a lot of. I think if you had to choose between the Bears and the Seahawks, I think you'd rather stay with the Seahawks just because you got weapons to pass to.
I know some people are happy. I know.
You're for what?
I know some people are happy that Wilson mentioned the Bears, that one of the teams that's on his list. You know what this reminds me of, Lakeena?
What?
R.I.P. to Mr. Kobe Bryant. Remember back in 06, 05, where there was rumors of him coming to the Chicago Bulls? I know he said on that NBA TV documentary from a couple of years ago, it was players only. It was Shaq interviewing him. It was a great interview, by the way, for those of you that missed it. Go back on YouTube and look it up and watch the whole episode from the beginning, please. But remember, Kobe Bryant said he kept referring to 04 after the Lakers lost to the Pistons. Of course, Shaq got traded to the Heat during that offseason, what have you. But I still remember not 04, but it was 2007. I remember all that time, and that was when the Bulls signed Ben Wallace as a free agent, would turn out to be a bust. But it was rumored that Kobe Bryant was trying to wheel and deal his way to the Chicago Bulls. And I said, I wouldn't believe it till I see it. And number two, I didn't want him here only because we all know that he was a little brother to Michael Jordan, and he was trying to overtake that legacy. I didn't care what nobody said. No one's going to overtake Michael, but he was trying to get a new contract for the Los Angeles Lakers. What ended up happening, he got a new contract from the Lakers. Of course, they turned around to get Paul Gasol. And then, of course, 2 championships later, 2009 and 2010, the Lakers were able to win. He used the Bulls as a bargaining chip. And like a knock, folks, that's how business is done in professional sports. But the main thing of that was John Paxson, I remember after that, coming out and saying, well, at least we finished in second place. Kobe really considered playing for the Bulls. I said, finish in second place don't mean a damn thing. It's whether you get it done or not. I don't care if you finish run-ups don't get remembered like that. No one cares. We didn't get them.
I do remember that, and very well. And I know people were buzzing about, they're designing Kobe jerseys, in Bulls, colors. Like, okay, guys, no. And I think this is the case here with Russell Wilson. I think he wants to use the Bears, like the Bears are being used as bargaining chips. He doesn't want to come here. He doesn't. I mean, maybe like, for promotions, or maybe Sierra may want to come here, to promote music and whatever products he's doing, but that's probably about it. I mean, he doesn't want to come here. I mean, it's just silly to think that, especially the way the team is make up now, he doesn't want to come here. He's not crazy. He's being very crafty. So look, I think they're going to work it out in Seattle. I think, he's going to, perhaps maybe put some money toward an O-line. And I think hopefully, everything will be happy and hunky-dory over up in Seattle. That's just
they better make it work because you're not going to get a quarterback better than Russell Wilson right now if you're the Seahawks. You're just not. So, like you said, they're going to have to find a way to work it out. Like I said, I know double talk when I hear it, and all this is just double talk. I don't want to get traded, but if I decide to get traded, here's where I want to go. It's like being in a long-distance relationship. Baby, I love you, but if stuff goes down, I got options, quote unquote. So that's all it is.
You're speaking from experience in that front.
I'm not saying it was me. I'm like, dang, it wasn't me.
All right. That's all like old Shaggy was on. Okay.
I know some couple of Cole's personal friends, which I'm not going to mention their names on the show, that have done that, but that's a whole nother issue for off the mic.
Exactly. But I mean, he's used a lot of double entendres. I mean, like you said, Sid, I think, that division, the NFC West, we talked about that division the last few years. It's gonna be tough, especially now you got Matthew Stafford now playing for the Rams. It's gonna be a tough division. So if you're the Seahawks, you better get it together because the very always mild-mannered Russell Wilson is saying something to other people. You better listen. You better listen to him.
Yep. You're listening to the weekend edition of Second City Sports, heading down the home stretch along with Lakeena and McGee. I am Sydney Brown. Lakeena, let's finish up this show with some more Bears news. As we call this segment, Steal a Topic from Chicago Sports Radio. I'll let you take it from here.
All right. Well, there were a couple of both the Chicago radio stations, both the Score and ESPN 1000. Actually, I believe this was brought up, in December, I think right before the holidays, but Arlington Raceway, the historic raceway, has been around for almost 100 years. Apparently, it's owned by Churchill Downs down in Kentucky, but now I guess they want to go a different direction. Churchill Downs does. They want to commit to horse racing in Illinois, but just not in Arlington. So now that beautiful land has been around for, I would say, like almost 90 years, maybe even more, maybe like almost 100 years, I should say, like maybe 90 some years. It's now up for sale. And some people, folks from, Adam Hogue, we talked about it with Jordan Bernfield earlier. Also, too, I think Brian Hanley, who's now doing great things over at ESPN 1000, he brought it up. Also, too, I think I heard Wall and Silly talk about it as well. And a few other places, too, on the Score. They've talked about it, too, I know. So they're saying that maybe the Bears should maybe move to Arlington and perhaps play their games at the old race course. I mean, look, we talked about it with Jordan earlier. You guys can listen to it online, of course. But I mean, look, I haven't been to Soldier Field for a game, but I have been there for a couple of concerts, and it is a pain in the butt to get there. I know you've been there to a couple of Bears games too at Soldier Sid, and Jordan talked about it earlier. I mean, it is a pain in the butt to get there. There is no there is no line in the L, here in Chicago that will let you off. Usually it's kind of like with G rates, and also too with regular field. There's I know in
the red line.
You got the red line right there. They'll let you off right there. And I think with the Cubs case, I think it's like about a half a block. So you're all good to go in that front. But with the Bears, you got to go about a half hour to 45 minutes, depending on how the traffic is there. And look, I understand that. I know it's a pain in the butt to get there, but you're telling me that there's no land in downtown Chicago. I mean, I know there's there got to be something in McCormick Place, right, Sid? That they probably do it. Montrose Beach. I heard somebody said maybe Montrose Beach was probably going to be easy to get there too. So. I mean, look, I know people say that, well, the Giants and the Jets, they play in Jersey, and in, Minnesota, the Vikings, they play just outside the Twin Cities. I know, yes, people brought up Jerry's World down in Arlington. They don't play in Dallas.
In San Francisco and Santa Clara.
Yeah, and also, too, I know, look, I know they say that, well, the Arizona Cardinals don't play well, they're the Arizona Cardinals. They're not the Phoenix Cardinals, so, of course, they're playing in Glendale, so let's get rid of that. But, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think it'll just be weird you're going to have a harder time, just as hard a time getting to Arlington. I mean, that's just, you're going outside the burbs. I mean, really?
Yeah, let me bring that up. Let me continue on that. You brought up my first point. Let's just assume that the Bears are playing their games at Arlington. Let's just say they're having a season like they just had this past year, barely sneaking into playoffs in 8-8. Let's just say we had. Let's just say it was the last week of the season. It's a home game, of course. Is a dome. Has everything you want. We all know that tickets are expensive already.
Yep.
Let's just say the weather that we had for the last 3 weeks in terms of snow and cold. And let's be honest, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think the majority of your season ticket fan base for the Bears, they come from the suburbs, and particularly the northern suburbs. I'm sure some from the western suburbs too. Okay, so let's just say the stadium's right there in Arlington. The people in those neighboring suburbs won't have too much of an issue getting there. But if you're living in the city of Chicago or in the southern suburbs like we are, do you really want to get your butt up on a Sunday morning? We all know during a normal fall, spring, summer day with no weather issues, traffic is a it's a pain in the neck. Let's just say we had a mini snowstorm and you wanted to go there to catch a game. Are you going to tell me that you're going to get your butt up and drive on 294 or I believe 290, I know 294 near me, and you're going to drive for at least 45 minutes, let's say to an hour tops, to Arlington Heights, because Arlington Heights is near the Wisconsin-Illinois state line?
Yeah.
Do you really want to get your butt up there, battle traffic? Where are you going to park?
I mean,
but if we have a bad snowstorm in the middle of December, are you really going to go through that to go to one game? And if you're a season ticket holder, of course, you'll catch a break in the weather between September and early November. But let's just say me and you want to go to a game in December, Lakeena, especially with the weather we just had for the last few weeks. Do you really want to go through that?
Oh, hell no.
I don't.
I don't either.
No.
I mean, no way. It's just absurd that look, we get it. Look, we vote in Soldier Field. We get it. It's a pain in the butt to get there, but do you really want to go through that? Going all the way up to the burbs. You're not going to do that. People are, especially in our area where from the south side of the southern burbs. You're not going to do that. You're not going to drag yourself. You're probably going to get up maybe 9 in the morning. Maybe 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock. Eat breakfast and then go surf for breakfast. And then you could take like an hour and a half. I mean, if the traffic isn't too bad. No, it's not. You're going to be facing even worse issues.
Yep. I'll give you a quick story. The last Bears game I went to, it was the season finale against Detroit. That was in 2015. Of course, it was the last game of Matt Forte for the Bears and Calvin Johnson, soon to be Pro Football Hall of Famer for the wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. My buddy, shout out to Adam, who still works for Chicago's Finest, if you know what that means, the police department. I got in there for free because he got tickets for free for working for Chicago's Finest. We didn't park in there. He drove, actually. It was me, him, and his mother. We drove to the stadium. He couldn't park in the stadium like Jordan said in our last segment. You can't park in those parking lots. Those people are there early tailgating and whatnot, so you can forget about that. We had to park near a building. I forgot, it was on State Street or something. It was right near under the L, and he knew somebody, so he didn't have to pay for parking. Thank goodness.
Oh, nice.
But he knew somebody. But there was about 4 or 5 people trying to drive behind us looking for spaces. And he's like, I know somebody, man, so this is the only space left. And I'm sorry for you guys. You just got to find somewhere to park. And these kids were from the suburbs, actually. But still, where are you going to find parking for a normal game right now for Soldier Field? You just can't. You have to take public transportation unless you know somebody you're going to stay in a hotel or whatnot. But going back to Arlington Heights, I know there's prime land out there, but let's just say you had a snowstorm like we had a few weeks ago. Are you really going to go out there for one game? Or if you're a season ticket holder, you're going to go out there, battle traffic, and the roads are not as clear. Heaven forbid you have a big accident like you had in Dallas a few weeks ago with the stuff they're dealing with. Is it really worth it? No. Coming from where we live? No.
I mean, look, it's a big issue there with Soldier Field. I know that the partition wants to preserve a lot of that stuff, the columns and whatnot, and the sentimental value, but they screwed up. They screwed up on how they renovated that place. And look, that's something that you're gonna have to maybe think about, down the line. It's been 20 years. Put a dome up if you have to. Add some seats and look, try to preserve some of that stuff that some people say is sacred. I mean, or perhaps like I said, there's land in Montrose Beach, which is easier to get to. Also in McCormick Place, which is definitely easier to get to. So that's something that the Bears organization as a whole are gonna have to think about, because if you're talking about going all the way to Arlington, where it's not going to be very conducive, you just forget it.
Yep, I agree. Here's the thing, Lakeena. I get it from a business sense that if you move to Arlington Heights, yes, we talked about the land, but on the other hand, you don't want to deal with politicians, whoever's mayor in that seat. We're talking about the mayor of the city of Chicago. I know from that aspect, you don't have to deal with that anymore. You don't own that land. The Park District currently owns, Soldier Field. But if you're the mayor of Arlington Heights, I don't know who that person is, but if you're the mayor of Arlington Heights, you love this because what are you known for besides the racetrack? Besides being a rich suburb, no disrespect, but you're not really known for anything. You can build hotels up there. You can build, I'm sure, a little bit more restaurants or casinos as they get more legalized, hopefully soon in Illinois. You can make it up a mini playground, but from the business aspect, I get it. And if you're the Bears, you control everything, unlike now because you're in the city of Chicago, where the Park District owns that land. But the base of your ticket fan base may love it because it's in their surrounding areas. But if you're a season ticket holder in the actual city, the city of Chicago, are you gonna hop on 294 or 290 or any other expressway and go up there on a bad day? Even though I wouldn't. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. I don't know.
Well, look, I like to see
I wouldn't do it.
I mean, I like to see how Tom Hayes, he's the mayor of Arlington Heights. I want to see how he feels about this, because I know he said that he wants to, find something exciting, how to use that particular property. But I wonder.
I guarantee they ain't gonna let that go to waste.
I know. I'm sure. Look, I don't know if look, he's a sports fan from what I can read, and look, I don't think has said whether or not he will mind the Bears, playing there. But I think. Look, I'm sure they'll work something out, and then perhaps maybe redevelop that particular land over at Soldier Field. But it's definitely something to think about. And look, we're not Houston. I mean, we're not Dallas. I should say we're not. Look, Indy, they play in the middle of downtown, so they found a way to make it work. So why can't the Bears? And still, the Chicago.
If you notice, most of these new stadiums now are in centralized downtown areas where the majority of your fan base can get to wherever you come from, like the United Center, to a lesser extent Comiskey Park. Yeah, I said Comiskey. I'm not calling that corporate ass name for the White Sox. And you can get to Wrigley, even though it's on the north side. Most people can get to Wrigley Field. Okay, I understand if you put the stadium in Arlington Heights, you get a Final Four, you get a Super Bowl. But really, if you're the city of Chicago, assuming that the arena is built, whoever's the mayor there, do you really want that business going out of the city of Chicago? No, you don't.
Exactly.
Example, last year's NBA All-Star game. I know the NBA takes over your town wherever you get an All-Star weekend, okay? Do you really think that all those events that were held around the city of Chicago, Lakeena, if had those events were in the suburbs or in Arlington Heights where the actual game was played, assuming that let's just say the United Center was in Vernon Hills or Arlington Heights, do you think it would have had the same feel? No.
Or in Evanston.
No.
I mean, no way. So look, I mean, it's nice to talk about, but I don't think it's gonna. I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't think so either.
All right, real quick before we wrap up, a special shout out to the Blackhawks. Yay!
Yay!
Oh my goodness, they continue to play better, be fun to watch. They beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 2-0 on Thursday. Malcolm Subban had 26 saves, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so he had a nice showing too. Of course, Kaner did, his, another great goal. No spins this time, but it was a really great goal. That kind of, that was a goal ahead.
$3.99 and counting.
I know, right? $3.99, and by the time we reconvene on Monday, maybe he will get to 400 career goals. We'll see.
Hopefully, they got a back-to-back against Detroit at the UC.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm
it
sure
should be a 2-game sweep.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get it. So congrats to him, and also to the Blackhawks are. They're kind of like right there in that particular part of the division, so they're playing in. So I'm not saying that they're going to be a playoff team, but I think they're making them interesting, and they're being competent and confident. So they're placed in the Central, so you got to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, we'll break down more of the Blackhawks with their games against Detroit this weekend on our next podcast for Tuesday. But I'll say this, what helps the Hawks right now is the division that they're playing in this year. I know that their schedule gets tougher in the month of March. I know you got a 3-game series at the UC against the Tampa Bay Lightning in there for 3 straight games, I should say. So you better collect the wins now because it's going to get tougher. But you should be encouraged by what you're seeing on the ice right now.
Absolutely. So on that note, you follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the Instagram at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. You can follow this show, Second City Sports, along with the other podcast programming by simply typing in your search engine box War on Anchor, which kicks you over to Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Apple, Google Play, and the iHeartRadio app. Wherever you download your podcast, make sure you type in that search engine box, WARR on Anchor. And we're also on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media on YouTube. You can not only listen to us, but watch us do our thing live. And go to our website, weareregalradio.com, WEAREREGAL radio.com.
And we also like to, once again, thank Jordan Bernfield from WGN Radio, ESPN, NBC Sports Chicago, and also to the Big Ten Network for joining us. We'll, hopefully we'll have him on again. I promise, Jordan, we're not going to have you. We're not going to wait long before we have you on again. But look, it was great, having him on, and great insight as always with him. And listen, guys, I know it's a little warmer out, but let's not wear our bathing suits or just yet. Let's slow down here. But but
we can wear our hoodies, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So.
Yes.
Yes, we can. So first, Sid, I'm Lakeena. This is Second City Sports Zoom. Oh, you know what? Oh, before we wrap up, best wishes and get well soon to Tiger Woods.
Yes.
A horrible car accident earlier this week. He has a long road to recovery, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, on Tuesday. But we just want to send out our best wishes to him, and get well soon, and good luck on his long rehab, because it's gonna be a long one.
Yes, just thankful he's alive right now. I could give less than about his golf career right now. He's done more than enough on that, but it's about the game of life. So, like you said, we're thinking about him. He has a long road ahead, but I have no doubts that he'll make it.
Absolutely. So wash your hands, folks. Wear your mask and keep your distance and be good to each other. This is Second City Sports Zoom style, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Till next time, holla!